And welcome back, everyone, to episode 72 of the Sports Coverage Podcast. My name is Andrew, alongside my co-host, Chase. Vince is actually sitting right over on the side of us, but unfortunately he lost his voice today, so Chase is going to be filling in as he did a couple episodes ago. But besides that, we are joined by an amazing guest today, Jewish Jonah, the famous Wrigley Field Hotdog Slinger. Jonah, thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be here. Excited to chat.
Yeah, so like I just mentioned to you before we started filming, we're going to kind of cover a lot of things. You live a very interesting life out there in Chicago, so there's certainly a lot to talk about, and we can't wait to get into it.
Perfect. Yeah, let's rock it.
So let's get started with probably the thing you're most known for, and that is selling hot dogs at Wrigley Field. And, you know, the Cubs also, I'm sure this is going to help your sales and stuff like that, have been pretty dang good this season so far. So have you noticed kind of an uptick in sales and stuff like that as the Cubs have started to get better over the past couple seasons?
Certainly, yeah. So I think one of the big factors that leads into sales, the top one is probably the weather, and the other one is attendance. The weather, haven't been able to control. But attendance, when the Cubs are playing good baseball, is great. So it feels like every weekend we've got a 40,000 person sellout, which certainly will help with sales. And as we move further into the summer and the Cubs keep playing competitive baseball, I think that trend is going to continue, especially as it starts to warm up. So I'm predicting this to be one of my best sales seasons that I've had for sure.
Yeah, I will say it's about 100 degrees outside where we are, and I'm sure that if I were at a baseball game right now, I could go for a hot dog or one of the things that you're selling out there. So
a lot of frozen margarita sales this past week with
yes.
90-degree weather.
Yeah, I've seen some of your most recent videos have been more about that, and it seems like they've been doing quite well among the Wrigley faithful. But continuing on with the topic of Wrigley Field, you know, it's the second oldest stadium in MLB baseball. It's probably because of that one of the most famous, if not the most famous stadium. Do you have a favorite, I guess, characteristic or feature of Wrigley that you just love seeing every day or getting to be a part of?
Oh, that's a great question. I think for me, I'm a huge baseball fan. I've been to all 30 stadiums. Most of them I've gone to with my dad. But there's still something about Wrigley that's always had this like special aura to me. I don't know. There's like a feeling when you walk up from the lower level concourse into the seating bowl, you're just like hit with this wave of history and, for me, emotion. And as Wrigley has started to become more modernized, it has not lost its like historical magic. So I think they've done a really good job of keeping it up to date and with the technological advancements and just the surrounding neighborhood, but it still has the old timey Wrigley feel. So it's for sure, it's my favorite place on earth. And this is season number 11 for me at the stadium. Feels just as magical as season number 1.
So the typical job for a person isn't selling hot dogs at baseball. And certainly there aren't a lot of internet viral hot dog slingers on the internet. So one, how'd you get your way to selling hot dogs at Wrigley, and what did it take for you to become viral and get the platform that you have?
Yeah. So when I was 18 years old, two of my best friends and I had nothing to do over the summer. And one of our buddies, his dad used to vend. So we were like, oh, that could be really fun. Let's see if we can get a job there. So his dad put us in touch with the folks that run the vending operation over at Wrigley, sent them an email. It's like, hey, diehard Cubs fan, going to be a freshman in college, and I have nothing to do this summer. Do you need help vending? And they did, coincidentally. So me and my two buddies got hired. We would drive down from the suburbs. I think we worked probably like 20 games that first summer. Would drive down, carpool from Northbrook, which is about 45 minutes north of Chicago, work the game, drive back. And then in terms of the content creation side of things, it took me many years to start to post about it, but I also sell concert merchandise, both at Soldier Field, a couple times at the United Center, and also at Wrigley. But I made a video at the end of the 2022 season, just a stupid little TikTok, day in the life of a Harry Styles merch vendor. And it got like 5,000 views. And I was like, I wonder if there's something here. Unfortunately, it was the last event of the year, so I had to wait 6 months to the start of the 2023 baseball season. But I came into that season thinking that I was going to make content and tell the stories of the vendors, and who else knows what else I would be creating. But I started making videos about 10 days before the season started. By opening day, I got recognized 3 times already. They'd be like, "Hey, you the hot dog guy?" Which was really kind of crazy to me. And then that first weekend of the 2023 season, I made a day in the life of a Wrigley Field vendor video. Got 500,000 views. Next thing I know, Cubs front office reaching out to me and the local Chicago news. And from there, just kept making dumb videos and sharing stories of the vendors who have been there for half a century, or videos like who's got the best hot dog call. And I've just kind of been consistently churning out content since then. It's been super fun to create. And it's been a really good start to this year from a content perspective, too. A lot of new eyeballs are seeing the stuff.
Yeah, a couple things I will say. First of all, when it comes to being recognized, we're here at camp with about 150 other people who are looking to go into broadcasting, play-by-play, stuff like that. And we mentioned that we were going to interview you. And so many people here were like, "Oh, yeah, it's the Wrigley hot dog guy. We know who that is," and stuff. So I think it's really cool that you've kind of been able to build that platform. And also, the first video that I saw from you was the best Wrigley hot dog vendor, like hot dog calls. And I know that that's still to this day one of your best videos. But I want to ask, do you have a favorite one? Because you didn't mention it in there. Of course, you have yourself in there. But is there one that you really just think brings nostalgia, or is just like a cool one?
Yeah, there's a couple. Hot dog calling is kind of like an art, in my opinion. This guy, Antonio, I think hands down, he's by far the best. He literally, I call it a war cry. It's you can hear him on the broadcast. He's for sure my favorite, hard worker, just overall great dude. A couple underrated ones. There's a guy named David, and I can't imitate it as well as he can do it, but he goes, "Hot dogs, yep." And that just like it tickles my brain. There's a couple other great ones too that the guys are just characters. It's really fun to hear what they come up with in terms of their calls.
Yeah, that's really cool. While we're on the topic of hot dogs as well, love to hear go-to stadium hot dog. What are you putting on it? What condiments are you getting? What's that looking like?
Loaded question here. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Chicago lore, but Chicago is anti-ketchup. I have made it a mission to stop the slander of ketchup. I think that hot dogs are an inclusive food. Whatever you want to put on a hot dog, you should be able to put on a hot dog. I since have graduated to Chicago-style dog. You got no ketchup, but relish, sweet relish, mustard, tomato slices, a pickle, onions, celery salt, sport pepper on a poppy seed bun. I do it without the peppers because I have no spice tolerance. But I went to a game in Seattle and had a Seattle dog that has, I think, cream cheese and grilled onion, which doesn't sound good, but it is very good. So don't judge a hot dog by its cover.
So for you personally as a hot dog vendor, what is your go-to trick, your call to get your sales up and sell the most hot dogs?
Every time, no matter what I'm selling, actually that's not true. I guess it's just hot dogs and beer mostly, or vodka seltzers. But I'll start out my call with like a, "Hey," kind of like breaks the silence and gets people to look at me. And then once I have their attention, I go into what I'm selling. So I'll be like, "Hot dogs." And I think it certainly works. You got to get their attention first before going into the sales pitch.
Yeah, I mean, I've done like some things in sales, like whether it's door to door and stuff like that, and that seems like that's kind of the go-to way to get things done across anything, but especially when you're at a busy baseball stadium like Wrigley. And I will say, I go to a lot of Yankee games, and I don't know how many of those you've been to, but vending in the seats isn't really a huge thing. I always hate it that I have to get up and go get food and stuff because I want to like hang out by the field pregame and things like that. And it's just not as big of a thing. And I went to Camden Yards and I went to Philly in the past year. It is so different. Everything about how they sell food there, everything about how stuff's vended to your seats, all that kind of stuff is just so different. And I wish that Yankee Stadium would kind of go back to those classic baseball ways, really. And I think that would be a lot cooler. But I would love to hear someone every once in a while break that silence with a nice hey or something in the middle of the game. Because I know I'm hungry sitting there in the sixth inning, not wanting to get up because Aaron Judge is up next inning or something like that. So
Especially with the
certainly.
pitch clock too. If you're getting up and going to concession stands, you're missing more of the game now with the fast pace.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So I'd love to get back to Wrigley. And you mentioned also that you were a huge baseball fan growing up and you kind of got into Wrigley through this job. Is there a favorite moment that you've either experienced as a fan beforehand or at Wrigley during your time there, or maybe one from both times?
Yeah. So I was going to Cubs games with my family since I was probably 3 or 4 years old. We would, I remember it so vividly. We would drive down, we'd park under the train, we would get cinnamon rolls from this little brunch spot called Ann Sather's, and then we would walk over to the stadium. And that walk from Ann Sather's to the stadium maybe is like 15 minutes. It always felt like 45 when I was a kid. But I actually live down the block from there now, which is really a full circle moment. In terms of favorite memory at Wrigley while working, I mean, that 2016 playoff run, game 6 of the NLCS against the Dodgers, I have never felt an atmosphere quite like that the entire time when Clayton Kershaw was pitching. You got 41,000 people standing room only going, Kershaw, Kershaw. It felt like a high school basketball game, honestly, which is hard to do when you got a 40,000 person stadium. Obviously, we won that game to go to the World Series, which I will never forget that last double play out. And then I worked games 3, 4, and 5 of the World Series. Almost didn't work game 5 because I didn't think that I could stomach watching the Cubs lose in person. And my friends were like, dude, you're an idiot. You're going to work. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I'm going. Luckily, we won, and the rest is history. As a fan, I take a couple games off a year now. I'm working most of them, but a couple times I'll not work and I'll go to Wrigley as a fan. One of those games happened to be the David Bodie walk-off grand slam game on Sunday Night Baseball. I was sitting in the bleachers with my friends and our parents, and that game, you almost can't get a better game and ending than that. So that's probably my favorite game as a fan. But 11 years of memories just working there. I could go on for hours.
I will say I made the decision, and my mom as well, that we would go to Game 5 this year with the Yankees and Dodgers. And we got there a little bit later, and they were already up 1-0, and then another home run came, whatever. And then, yeah, I saw it happen. So you're lucky that you went that day and it didn't happen then, and you guys ended up winning it. But I will say that was not a great experience for me.
I can only imagine. I can empathize with you, man. You've got my sympathy.
So you say you were a big Cubs fan growing up. Did you ever foresee yourself working for the Cubs in any way? I certainly wasn't being a hot dog vendor. That I know that wasn't what your future aspiration was. But like any other job that you wanted, working at Wrigley, working in the front office as a player, anything with the Cubs?
Oh, yeah. I think when I was younger, I quickly learned I would not be a player. I was a really, really good shortstop, but would bat last every inning, every game. Got scared of the ball once people started throwing hard. So unless they implemented instead of a designated hitter, unless MLB created a designated fielder position, I knew that I had no shot of making it to the league. But I did always want to work in the front office in some capacity, and even in college, like my goal was to work in sports business, and I ended up working in sports marketing out of school. But obviously started vending before then. Once I became a vendor, I have no interest in doing anything else at Wrigley for the Cubs because as much as I would love to work in the front office, it would mean I would need to give up the vending job, and I'm never going to do that. So I'm going to be cemented there as a beer and hot dog vendor for quite some time.
I'm sure also getting to be with the fans and kind of getting that experience is also a contributing factor as well, because I know sitting in the front office, either when you go to a game, if you go to a game at all, you're sitting kind of up high, out of the way, whatever, but you get to be there with the Wrigley faithful. And I know Cubs fans, I have a couple of them in New Jersey, surprisingly. They are definitely some of the funnest people to be around, especially during baseball season. So I'm sure that definitely contributes to your you wanting to stay in as a vendor.
Yeah, spot on. I mean, being inside the crowd, you can't beat it. Like you're in the action. I will never even when I was younger, I was like, oh, I can't wait to have season tickets. I'm never going to have season tickets because I will be working when I have free time to go to Wrigley.
So, being a famous hot dog vendor is the only thing you're known for. Bracketology has to be one of the most interesting ideas I've ever seen.
Thank you.
So, feel free to use us as a free ad placement, but could you just quickly explain what bracketology is for the people
Yeah,
who don't
of
know about
course. Yeah, so I've been building bracketology full time for almost 4 years now. We call it fantasy sports for reality TV. We provide fantasy football and bracket style games for 31 reality TV and award shows now. So we've got 4 different game types, anywhere from like a March Madness style bracket where you're choosing, instead of choosing college basketball teams, you're choosing who you think will survive each rose ceremony in The Bachelor, all the way down to the winner. All the way to a fantasy football style game where you draft a team of contestants each week, depending on what the contestants do and say during the episode, based on a predetermined list of rules, is how they earn points. So in Survivor, for example, if they win an immunity challenge, or they're seen eating on camera, or they say the words strategy or blindside, all of those are ways for the contestants to earn points. If you got them on your team, so are you. So right now we're offering free-to-play season-long games. We are working on an expansion into more of like the daily fantasy-based pools, which we're really excited about. Should be live in a couple months.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about kind of how you work on getting something like that up and running, especially from, I don't know how involved you are with this side, but programming side, and kind of how you're like trying to find people saying those words like strategy and things like that, and how that then goes into the game and things like that. So if you could kind of expand a bit on how this ended up getting built past just you having this idea.
Yeah. So the story goes, my co-founder, Caitlin, is the other full-time person working on this. She created a platform called Batch Bracket back in college with some of her friends. It was only for the Bachelor fantasy, and they created a couple of these game types. She moved to Chicago. We met in 2021. I was like, hey, you ever thought about expanding this outside of the Bachelor franchise? And she hadn't. So I left my job and became the first and only full-time employee at the time. And we rebranded. We built a new web application. So I have no technical background. We've worked with some offshore firms, both in Ukraine and India. We have a tech partner now, TechJays, that's building we built our mobile app and launched it in January of 2024. They're equity stakeholder and have been paramount in our development. But from a scoring standpoint, currently to date, I am the one that sits in front of the TV with an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm tracking who says and does what so that I can publish the fantasy scores after the episode. When you're a small startup and you're at these scrappy stages, you kind of wear a whole bunch of hats. And one of them for me is the actual operations of these fantasy games. We actually just put out a part-time job application for, like an assistant scorer, and we got 300 applicants in 48 hours. So we are sifting through those right now. But I'm looking forward to A, getting some support on that side. And then B, I think AI ultimately down the road is going to play a big part in the actual scoring apparatus of these season-long games.
So one thing I'm wondering is how the highs and lows of the app. I know Love Island, a new season just dropped, so I'm sure the app is really hot and blowing up because of that. But when there's not really a reality TV show going, Love Island season hasn't dropped, there isn't any Bachelor seasons out, is there ever a dry season? What do you do to get out of that?
Yeah, great question. There used to be, before we started adding all these new shows. So before, when Caitlin was running it, they would just do it 3 times a year whenever The Bachelor or Bachelorette or Bachelor in Paradise was airing. Now that we have 31 reality TV and award shows, there's not a whole lot of downtime. There will be, oh my God, in February, we had 10 shows a week going on. So I was watching probably 10 to 15 hours of reality TV every single week. In the summer, it's a little slower, but right now we're doing elimination games for MasterChef. We're doing Love Island. We're going to do the ESPYs, which is like a one night only award show. Bachelor in Paradise and Big Brother premiere right after 4th of July. The challenge, like there's really no downtime anymore, except from like the second week of December to the beginning of January. So I look forward to that 3-week period where I can relax a little. But that's another thing that we wanted to work on, this product expansion into daily fantasy pools so that we can kind of limit the fluctuation of traffic. And you're right, like right now, people are mostly just logging on a couple times a week to make their picks and then to check their scores. And episodes generally happen once a week, except for Love Island. Obviously, it's you get 5 episodes a week. But with these daily pools, we're going to be offering content every single day. So it should, the traffic will stay pretty consistent, I think, which again then lends to there being zero downtime for me. But I love what I do, so I had no complaints.
I think that creating a job that is exactly like just things you like your hobby, watching reality TV, and then making that into something that you now do to try to expand a business and stuff like that is just really, really cool. And I hope that that's something that this podcast or something else we do down the line can turn into one day, because certainly watching sports, or for you watching reality TV and being able to monetize that and turn that into something that you can kind of keep going throughout your life is really cool. So I think it's really impressive what you've been able to kind of figure out with this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And commending you guys too. Like you're doing it now, you built something from the ground up, and that if you're doing something that you're passionate about, it really doesn't feel much like work. And I implore everyone to kind of, don't settle for that job that you might not be happy in, even if it's got a good paycheck, like especially at your guys' age. And when I had this realization when I was 23, 24, I was like, okay, I'm still young. I could be on my parents' health insurance. Like, let's just give it a shot and try to build something. And I wish I started at your guys' age. So good for you. You got an early jump on everyone. But that would be my advice to everyone, is just like, try to find that there are jobs in any industry that you're passionate about, you can turn into a career, especially if you are passionate about said hobby. And for me, it just happens to be reality television and entertainment and baseball and selling hot dogs and content creation. So it's kind of just what I started pursuing.
So while all the shows are in season, would you say there's one specific genre of reality TV that gets the most users? Like, do people like tune into the picks on MasterChef more? Do they tune into the Bachelor picks more? What's the main show people come for?
Yeah, great question. So our staple shows are the Bachelor franchise, because that's how we got our shot. Looking at like anywhere from like 30 to 40,000 people for Bachelor franchise shows that are playing in a season. Survivor is our second biggest. We just crossed 15,000 people playing for this most recent season of Survivor. Very excited for Survivor 50 in a year to come out. That should be a huge season. And then it's always interesting to see, like, when we launch a new show that we're doing on our site for the first time. Like Love Island, we've had almost 4,000 people add Love Island to their shows. The Traitors was one of our biggest premieres. We just did The Traitors this past January, had like 6,000 people play. The Grammys and the Oscars for those one night only events, 4,000 to 6,000 people are making picks. So it's always interesting to see. And we take recommendations from our players too. We'll get messages. They'll be like, oh, when are you adding Farmer Wants a Wife fantasy games or 90 Day Fiance? So we try to take that into consideration as well when we're looking at an expansion.
So Vince off camera just is going to wants to ask a question. So he's going to kind of.
Excellent. Let's see if we can hear him.
Can we see him? Yeah, there we go.
All right, so my question was, how does the ESPYs want to work?
Yeah, great question.
Happy you can understand that.
Yeah, I got him.
Okay, cool.
So this is the first time we're doing the ESPYs. So essentially, they're going to release like just like any award ceremony. There are nominees that come out before the award show happens, and you choose what you think will win in each category. And I still need to do more research into the ESPYs itself. But for the Oscars, for example, you've got 5 or 10 nominees for Best Picture and leading actor and actress. So we post like a whole ballot basically, and you choose who you think will win in each category and submit your picks. So for some of the smaller awards, it'll be worth less points for a correct answer. And then for some of the larger awards, like the main staple ones, then they'll be worth more points. If you get it correct, you earn that amount of points for that question. And then you've got a leaderboard where you can see where you rank. And for the live show or for the award shows too, we generally try to post scores as close to live as possible. So during the broadcast, you can kind of check back into the app and see how you're doing.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that you're starting to go into, I guess, really the ESPYs is the only big sports award show, especially in the U.S. Besides, Ballon d'Or in Europe and things like that. So,
right.
Certainly that's something that I would be interested in doing with whoever's up for it. And I know around me right now and at this camp, there's certainly a lot of people who I think would be very interested in that. So certainly I'll mention that, and we'll mention that and see if we get something going. And now
awesome.
Vince wants to.
Yeah, and one thing too to clarify, like the fantasy sports industry is so saturated. We're not competing with any of them. Like you're never going to play fantasy football on Bracketology. But for us, like the ESPYs felt like a piece of underserved content that would be a really good overlap and interest from our audience. So that's why we are choosing to do it. It should be fun.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to do it. When the ESPYs come around, I'm definitely going to do it because it seems pretty cool.
Rock and roll. Look forward to it.
If you want to hear his actual voice, all the other episodes are mostly feature him. So
stellar.
Yeah. So
I'm pretty good at talking, but today it's just been off.
Yeah, I think a combination of a Club World Cup match, Fanatics Fest, and the first night of camp have kind of taken a toll on his voice. So
listen, preaching to the choir here, I've certainly lost my voice a number of times. It makes hot dog vending very difficult.
I'm sure.
But it won't get any better because we have wiffle ball later, and I'm going to go crazy.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah. So before we kind of wrap up, I'd love to go into kind of your Cubs fandom and what's happening with the Cubs this season, because I'm going to be heading to Cubs Yankees in about 2 to 3 weeks from now at Yankee Stadium. And I'm personally a little scared because every week they're ahead in the power rankings. The Yankees are kind of on a skid right now, and the Cubs just seem to keep getting better. So what's going on out in Chicago this season?
Yeah, this team has been really fun. It's felt different in a sense that anytime we give up a run, it feels like we answer back really quickly. And we've done all this without our two best starting pitchers. We lost our catcher who was playing good baseball. And I feel really pretty bullish about the season. We're 15 games over 500 in the middle of June. If you had said that we would go through all that and be 15 over 500 and have like a 5-game lead in the NL Central and be close to the top of the National League, I would be quite pleased. So, in fact, I am quite pleased. Pete Crow Armstrong is one of the most electric players I have ever seen. He's getting standing ovations in the middle of a game for just like making these insane catches, which like Cubs fans appreciate good defense too. And he also has hit 21 homers, which you can't complain about, but it's been a really, really fun year. Everyone's kind of contributing in their own way. And who knows? Bullpen's been great. I think it'll be interesting to see what we do at the deadline. Would love to bring in a starting pitcher, maybe another bat somewhere. But I feel pretty good about where the Cubs are at. Never feels like we're out of a game, which it has felt like that recently, except this season. So I feel I'm pretty stoked for my goal at the beginning of the year. Once I saw what this team was capable of, if we can host a playoff game, that's it. Like I miss that. I want to work a playoff game again. I don't think I've worked a playoff game at Wrigley since 2017. So I'm itching for October baseball at the Federal Landmark.
So personally, I'm not the biggest baseball guy. I rock with my Phillies, and I was able to go to the Phillies-Cubs game a few weeks ago, and social media and going to that game has turned Pete Crow Armstrong into one of my favorite players in the league. So how have you seen the fandom at Wrigley kind of corral around Pete Crow Armstrong?
Oh, I mean, anytime he comes up to bat, any late game, big moment, the whole stadium, people don't leave really early anymore. Like the Cubs have had so many crazy comebacks that people just stay. So you're in the ninth inning even in April, it's 35 degrees outside, and you got 30,000, 35,000 people chanting PCA, PCA the entirety of his plate appearance. Like it's such a wild phenomenon. And I think the players, you'll hear them talk about it, but they appreciate the atmosphere. It's just different here. It's there's nothing like Wrigley and Cubs fans. And maybe I'm a little biased, but I don't know. I feel like I've had a good experience. I've seen every stadium, so I feel like I've had a pretty good understanding of what the rest of the league is like, and it is certainly not all like Wrigley Field.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, I have a friend who's a big Cubs fan, and I'm going to that Yankees-Cubs game with him in a couple weeks. I think I'm going to make him sit in the bleachers, which probably isn't going to be great for him, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes there. But every week, every time a power ranking comes out and the Cubs are ahead of the Yankees, he sent it to me every single week. I'm kind of running out of things to say now because we're almost at 2 months now of that happening. And I just don't really know how to respond anymore because it's going to be a picture of Kyle Tucker or something, or PCA doing something crazy. And so it's certainly I've been keeping a closer eye on it than I would say most people from New Jersey would, especially just because it's such a cool story. And I mean, the Cubs for me, I fell in love with Anthony Rizzo. When we got him, he became one of my favorite players. I was able to meet him on a rehab last year, and he's just one of the nicest guys ever.
Oh, I'm so jealous. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I just think that the Cubs, and looking back at that playoff run and looking back at that World Series, I was born 4 months before the Yankees World Series in 2009. But being able to see a team like that went without one for so long and was that excited about it, it's just really cool. And I love seeing Anthony Rizzo every time with the glove up here. And I just think that the Cubs, even though I'm going to have to root against them in a couple weeks, have quickly become like one of my favorite teams to just watch, like purely in baseball.
Totally. Hey, listen, you're allowed to have a National League team and an American League team. That's cool with us. So welcome aboard the fandom.
All right, Vince is back.
Yeah, I tend to do the. Oh my god, I do the same. Cause I'm from Miami, so I watch the Marlins, but I don't really like them. So I root for the Yankees because of Andrew and my dad.
So, hey, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, another thing. Were you in the building when Rizzo caught that game-winning out in the World Series? Oh wait, no,
that was in Cleveland.
That was in Cleveland. Oh yeah,
I was not, unfortunately. I was in college at the time. I was a sophomore at the University of Illinois. I was considering maybe trying to go, but I had an accounting final and I couldn't miss the exam. I actually emailed my professor. I was like, hey, the exam was supposed to start at 7. World Series Game 7 was supposed to start at 7. So I emailed her. I was like, I'm not coming. There's no way. And apparently a lot of other people emailed her as well. So she created a conflict exam so we could take it at 5 o'clock instead of 7. But I was so nervous that I basically just rushed through the thing. I got a D, worth it. But I was watching with 30 of my closest friends I was in a business fraternity at the University of Illinois, and we had it on our TV just in the living room. They knew how big of a Cubs fan I was, so they set up a chair front and center for me. During the rain delay, I had to walk outside because I was mid-anxiety attack. And then obviously we know what happened after that. And my friends bought a bunch of champagne showered me. It was just like a very wholesome experience. I cried the entire night. And yeah, ultimately one of the best day of my life. Got it tattooed on my back after we won.
Wait, what? Actually?
Yep. I've got a tattoo that says Emus Catuli, which was a billboard outside of Wrigley. It says Let's Go Cubs in Latin with the date 11/2/2016 in a ribbon on my back. And my plan is every time we win another championship, I'll keep adding dates so that hopefully by the time I die, my back is a long championship banner. But even if we just have this one, I got to see one, and some Cubs fans don't get to say that and never got one. So I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I wish I was that patriotic about my teams. I'm a Panthers fan. They won the last two, and I'm not even that excited about it. So
Yeah, hockey. I'm the same. I mean, the Blackhawks when they won
Oh,
3 out of 6,
look,
and I'm the same way.
you know how Andrew was saying how he enjoys watching the Cubs? Growing up, that was kind of how I felt. Like, I loved the Blackhawks. I grew up, like, loving Patrick Kane. So
Yeah,
watching the Blackhawks was, like, everything to me. That and the Panthers, of course.
totally. No, I totally can empathize.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna turn the camera back one last time. Yeah, so I mean, I'm really excited to keep watching the Cubs this season. Hopefully, they don't end up getting in the Yankees' way at all, because that would be quite unfortunate for my allegiances. But
Well, maybe we'll see you guys in October.
But as far as the Cubs, outside of Peaker Armstrong, I cannot pronounce his first name correctly, but Seiya Suzuki, Kyle Tucker, Dansby Swanson, a bunch of great players on the Cubs. 3 games ahead of the Brewers in your what's it called? Division. Yeah. As you
We're
can
only
tell,
3 games ahead of the Brewers. Jumped the Cardinals.
Brewers are 3.5, Cardinals are 4.5.
Oh wow, I didn't even know the Brewers. Yikes, that scared me.
I mean-
I have not looked at the standings in a week or so.
Yeah, I mean, the Brewers last year, that was just one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. Just that entire run that they had last season. And then we played them on opening day this year. And, I mean, Carlos Rodon had an amazing outing there. And I was just wondering what happened to the Brewers. And then the Cubs started to get really, really good. And I was like, okay, I don't think the Brewers are really going to be back in that weird position again.
Oh no, you can never count them out. It's really annoying. Between them and the Cardinals, I think I hate them equally now. Which when I was younger, I hated the Cardinals way more, but now they're on even levels. And I do not hate the White Sox. Let's a very important note. I'm a big if the Sox are good, it's good for the city, it's good for the sport, and I have no ill will towards the team across the South Side.
Oh, I have one more thing.
oh my God, let me ask my question.
Wait. Did Chicago have like a huge shift with the culture ever since the Pope was elected, or was that not that much of a culture shock?
Oh, we're stoked. I mean, even Cubs. The Pope was at the 2005 World Series, which
Yeah, I saw photos. That's pretty neat.
so wild. We have certainly, as a city, we're very excited about it. Even the Jewish Chicagoans like myself, it's electric. So who knows? Maybe the Pope will bless the White Sox and they'll be good at some point.
Amen.
But back to our last question. As far as going in the NL, we're going to have to see the Phillies, the Mets, the Dodgers, and some other wild card teams in the playoffs. How far do you really think this Cubs team can go in their best scenario?
It's a tough question. You've stumped me. I really when the Cubs are playing their best baseball, this Cubs team, they can beat anyone. And it's been apparent. We won the season series against the Dodgers. But then sometimes, the Mets take 2 of 3 or 3 of 4 from us. It just depends on what team shows up. So, I mean, we could be an early bounce, or we could win the pennant and be playing the last week of October. We got Shota Imanaga coming back on Thursday. Amaya's going to come back soon. I feel good about the squad. So, hopefully we can just keep rocking and rolling and taking care of business, and we'll get there when we get there, hopefully.
I will say one final thing I saw early May at this point was that at that point the Cubs had the easiest strength of schedule or whatever up to that point. And then they played the Dodgers series.
Well, we had the hardest strength of schedule.
Oh, you had the hardest?
Sorry.
The Mets had the easiest one. You had the hardest one, and then you also played the Dodgers twice and then won that series.
Right. Yeah. Season series. Yeah. The Cubs had the hardest schedule. I don't think we played a team under 500 until the second week of May or the third week of May. And then we started playing some of those weaker teams and taking care of business. And that's how we've grown our, we're 15 over 500. We just started, I think we won 8 series in a row, which pretty good. Against some good teams too. We'll see. Just get me to September.
Yeah, and also I will say props to you for not having any hatred for the team crosstown. I cannot say the same, unfortunately, just because of kind of, especially in recent years, the history that's there between the Yankees and the Mets. So, you know, it must be nice kind of being able to get along with fellow baseball fans around your city. Because I know I certainly.
Well, the White Sox fans, they hate the Cubs.
Yeah.
So it's definitely still a one-sided thing.
I guess you don't really see it as too much of a conflict at this point, I would say, or too much of a challenge for you guys.
The juice has died a little in the rivalry. Granted, 2 decades ago when I was younger, different story probably. But I think as I've grown up, I'm a Chicago guy, so I just want the city to thrive, and part of that is when both baseball teams are good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jonah, for joining us on an amazing episode of the Sports Coverage Podcast. I'm happy Vince was able to get some questions in as well as he could, and I'm happy you were able to understand it, and now he wants the mic back real quick.
Hey, I would love to have you back on when I actually have my voice.
Stellar. Sounds good. Let me know.
We'll meet you back in October.
Good
deal.
We'll
see you in October. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so thank you everyone so much for listening to the 72nd episode of the Sports Coverage Podcast. My name is Andrew alongside my co-host Chase. Thank you so much, Jonah, for joining us. All of his links and everything are going to be down below, including bracketology and the app and all that fun stuff. It was a real pleasure to have you. Thank you for kind of working out. I know we had to change the timing a little bit, but thanks for making it work.
Yeah, of course. Happy to help, and great to chat, and looking forward to seeing you guys continue to grow as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so like and subscribe on YouTube. Everything else is over on Instagram, and now some post clips from this episode, everything like that. And we'll see you next week.